The United Nations is speaking out on the violence that killed at least 30 protesters in Sudan on Monday. The UN Human Rights Agency is calling on Sudan's military leaders to investigate the deaths that occurred when the Sudanese military fired on demonstrators as they tried to break up a pro-democracy sit-in. In a statement posted on Twitter Monday, Thibault Narge, the U.S. Assistant Secretary for African Affairs, strongly condemned the attack by Sudan's military junta. VOA's Latza Hoke reports on the uprising.
Protests in Sudan's capital Khartoum turned deadly on Monday as security forces clashed with protesters who burned tires and created barricades. The United Nations Human Rights Agency called on the military to investigate the violence and hand over power to a civilian administration.
We understand from reliable sources that between 30 and 35 people may have been killed and hundreds others injured. We also received reports that the armed forces, security forces, had entered a hospital where injured protesters were being treated, and this, of course, is entirely unacceptable.
The head of the Sudanese Transitional Military Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, promised that the incidents will be thoroughly investigated, but he also announced that the council has decided to cancel all the agreements it has made with protest leaders.
The military council decided the following: to cancel all the agreements and to stop negotiations with the Declaration of Freedom and Change Forces, call for general elections within 9 months, under regional and international observation, and form a caretaker government to implement the transitional mandate.
That mandate includes accountability for corruption in the ousted government and the return of displaced people to their homes. The military council and protesters had previously agreed on a longer transition period to allow time for the dismantling of Bashir's entrenched political network. Khalid Omar Youssef, leader of the umbrella group Declaration of Freedom and Change Forces, said the head of the military council is not different from Bashir.
Al-Burhan has not learned the lessons of history, it seems. He's reproducing a complete and clear image of history. We believe the matter is now in the hands of the Sudanese people.
Youssef said the attack on the protesters has united the Sudanese people in their determination to remove the military regime. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Now, for more on the political conflict in Sudan, journalist Jason Patinkin joins me live via phone from Khartoum. Jason, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Now, we understand the military council is offering unconditional talks to the protesters and the coalition of opposition groups. How are these groups reacting to that offer?
So far, one opposition representative has rejected that call. Otherwise, there hasn't been much public response yet. I think it'll be quite interesting to see in the next coming days what the opposition does in response, because the coalition, which is a group of labor unions and professional unions and opposition parties, has been quite fragile, with some of the more conservative groups not always going along with the decisions of the group. So it is possible that maybe we start to see a fracturing as some if some parties decide that it's to their benefit to engage in this dialogue, while others remain firm against any military role.
Jason, we understand that the death toll from Monday's crackdown on the opposition groups has risen to more than 60, with bodies being recovered from the Nile River. What more do you know?
Well, on the bodies recovered from the Nile, it's difficult to confirm that. That came from the Sudan Doctors Committee, which is an opposition-linked group, or a group linked to the protests. And the reason it's difficult to confirm is because they said that those were bodies that were actually pulled out by the Rapid Support Forces who carried out the massacre on Monday. So it's difficult to tell. It's difficult to go near the Nile because of heavy military presence. So it's unclear about that. However, what I can say is that there's been many anecdotal reports coming in of continued violence in various neighborhoods in Khartoum. People I've talked to say that not only are they angry at what happens on Monday, but they're also living in fear of continued attacks or targeted killings or indiscriminate killings as well.
Jason, thank you so much. We'll keep up with you there. Follow this story for us. We'll talk to you perhaps tomorrow or Friday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jason Patinkin is a journalist based in Khartoum, talking to us live via phone.